Call to order the Board of Mayor and Aldermen for June the 10th. Tonight we have 3 items for public hearing. They'll be heard first. So those items are a public hearing on ordinance number 1632, adopting the annual budget and the tax rate for the fiscal year beginning July the 1st, 2024, and ending June the 30th, 2025, for passage on the second of 3 readings. Anyone wish to address the board in public hearing? Hearing none, we'll move to the second public hearing. A hearing on a request to rezone a parcel located at 507 South Washington Street from C2 to C3. Anyone on that? And then we'll move to the third public hearing. Public hearing to request to rezone a parcel located along Southwest Atlantic Street with West Monroe Street, and that's from C2 to C3 as well. Anyone on that public hearing? Not, we'll close the public hearing, and this time I'll call to order the Board of Mayor and Aldermen and ask Ms. Reverend Shelby Shields if she would please bring us the invocation and follow that with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
Let's pray. Lord, lift up our city of Tullahoma today. We pray for our mayor, our aldermen, our police chief, our brave officers, and those who fight our fires. Lord, we pray for all who serve this wonderful town. Strengthen each leader and wisdom, and give us grace for the heavy burdens that each carries. May they manage their teams and projects with love and your grace, O Lord. May they manage and keep their hearts pure and all eyes turned toward your face as they work in the best interest of the people that are called to serve this great city. And all of God's people said, Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Ask the city recorder to call the roll.
Alderman. Here. Berry.
Here.
Glick.
Here.
Millis.
Here.
Mann.
Here.
Mathis.
Here.
Wilson.
Present.
7 present. Full quorum. Tonight we'll move into commendations and certificates, and it's my pleasure to announce that we have with us an honorary alderman. It's the Mayor's Youth Council Mayor and the Vice Mayor of the Mayor's Youth Council. And with that, I have a couple of certificates I'd like to present and a couple of little mementos I'd like to present. Join me at the flag, please. I want to thank you guys for the great job you've done this year with your Mayor's Youth Council. Congratulations. With that, we'll open the floor to comments from citizens. And I'd ask that if there are those here who wish to address the board for the appointments to the airport board, if you would hold your presentation until last, and I'll ask any other comments from citizens to come first. So at this time, you'll be able to ask to speak for up to 3 minutes on anything that's under the purview of the board. Speak into the microphone and state your name and address.
My name is Susan Harris, and I reside at 200 Lake Circle Drive in Tullahoma, Tennessee. And two issues that I want to just barely touch on, but one is the charter. And I am not really sure why we thought it necessary to be sure to get this done so quickly, but I understand a lot of work has gone into it and a lot of concerted and sincere effort. However, and I sent an email to everybody that shows the change in the wording from the current charter that we have versus the proposed charter. And in the section 3, C6, in the current charter, it says any alderman after his election removing from the city thereby vacates his said office. Now, the changed and the charter that has been changed that we're to approve tonight, for y'all approval tonight, that has been changed to, which to me doesn't make any sense. It says any alderman after her election removing the alderman from the board thereby vacates his or her office. So I think there's a typo there. I think maybe cut and paste or just somebody got on the wrong line, but that is in the current charter that's under for approval tonight, and I would hope that y'all would take the time to correct this, because that eliminates any necessity for a board member to stay within the residency of the city of Tullahoma as a resident, however that's defined. But that, we don't have any other requirement in there that says you have to maintain residency during your serving your term. So I hope y'all will fix that. The second thing was, I noticed there was a proposed ordinance prohibiting the allocation of public funds to certain organizations. And I can understand that would seem like a good idea at one level, but at the other level, I don't think you want to prohibit the city of Tullahoma from partnering with any type of organization that is in Tullahoma if they're doing something that's beneficial for the city. And one of the ones that came to mind was, we have a city warming center in the wintertime that's actually being run by several churches in the area. So to me, if a church was to all of a sudden, take it upon themselves to come up with a wonderful solution to help with homelessness, I wouldn't want the city to be prohibited from participating in that project simply because it was being led by a church. The same thing with a for-profit organization. You might have a for-profit company that's going to bring in a project or want to do something for the city of Tullahoma or for the citizens of Tullahoma, and I don't think you'd want to prohibit the city of Tullahoma from being able to participate financially in that if it was for the best of the city. So basically, I think we trust y'all to make the best decisions for the citizens based on what you come up specifically before you every month or 2 weeks, and I think it would be wise to trust your successors to do the same. So I would kind of hope that y'all would rethink or look closely at that proposed ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harris. Next.
My name's Stan Almacher, 220 West Lincoln Street, and I own around 100 acres in town, I guess, on the south side, some on the west side, some on the north side, and several other acres. Had a construction business in town from 1980 to 2015, when I retired. Did many projects for the city and city board, utility board, including the Martin Pugh Underpass. I've never had a lawsuit in Tullahoma until now. And I received a lawsuit from your city administrator, which I've never met, on behalf of the city stating that I'm not in compliance with the city code. I never received a letter from any communication from the codes department stating that I'm in non-compliance of any code. I would think a letter would be sent first from the codes department. If I didn't address that matter, then it'd be given to the city administrator and try to settle the dispute. I would think a lawsuit would be the last resort to settle any such dispute. Evidently, it must be the city administrator's first resort, because all the first thing I knew about it, I got a lawsuit. City administrator works for the taxpayers and citizens of Tullahoma. He should do all he can to help the citizens that he works for to solve and not create controversies. One person that's hired probably shouldn't have the power to enter into a lawsuit anyway. I've been told that administrator to have a lawsuit filed on behalf of the city has to be approved by resolution by the city board. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't think it was ever done, if they do. No, the city's been threatened by their insurance companies not to renew their liability insurance. I believe this is partially because of all the lawsuits that the city's involved in. And I believe I'm correct when I say there are several. I could go on about the suit, but I won't. And I hope the board would direct their administrator to exhaust all efforts to resolve issues like this that don't have to go to court. I've never been able to speak to them. Their attorneys won't let me talk to them. That's not right. In closing, I'll state one thought out of the blue. You know, there's a lot of money to be made in chicken houses.
Thank you, Mr. Alderman. Okay, are there those here that wish to address the board regarding the appointment to the airport board? Please come to the microphone, state your name and address, and state your case.
Yes, my name's Brad Holt. I live at 101 Garland Crest Court South in Tullahoma. And I'm a lifetime airplane fanatic, so when I was offered the opportunity to join the airport board, I thought it'd be a great opportunity to serve both the community and live out one of my passions. So that's my case.
Thank you very much, Hope. Appreciate it. So, you know, we speak appointment to the airport board. I know that the board did receive an email from Mr. Tom Gillard indicating the desire to be on the board and why he could not be here tonight, so you have that in your email. Are there any other comments from the citizens? Seeing none, we'll close the comments from citizens and move into the approval of the agenda. We'll get a motion. Motion from Mathis, seconded by Barry. Mr. Barry, you wish to address the agenda?
Yep. There's no objection. I've asked that we move the item number 6, the ordinance concerning the budget, till after new business. And the reason I ask is because there's a couple items on the agenda that, depending on how the board decides to go, will kind of dictate conversations on the agenda and some different motions that I may or may not make on the agenda.
Move to where?
To after new business, after item number 24, 5.
Last item.
Last item, yep.
Good. Without objection, so moved. With that, we'll vote on the agenda as amended. That's approved, 7-0. With the agenda, we'll move to reports from the Aldermen. Mr. Perry, seems like you're warmed up. Just open us up.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no comments. No report. Thank you. I have no report, Mayor.
Mr. Mathis.
No report, Mayor.
Mr. Mann.
No report.
And Mr. Wilson.
No report, Mr. Mayor.
And Ms. Allmark.
No report.
Well, I'll take your time. I'll take everyone's time. Just kidding. I will just report to the airport board meeting at the Tennessee Valley Public Power Association conference I attended in Memorial Day History Park. It was a very good ceremony. TUA board meeting and a Tennessee Valley Quarter meeting in Nashville last week, which were all very interesting, informative. With that, I will also announce there is a vacancy on the Tullahoma Housing Authority. So with that, we'll leave that open for another month till we have some applicants apply. So with that, we'll move this to the honorary alderman. I'll start with you, Ms. Lindsay. Edie, you have a report?
Yes. I would like to just start by talking about all the things that we have done this year. So I would like to start with the Imagination Station cleanup, which took place quite early in the school year. It was about a 4-hour activity. It was a lot of mulch laying, everything. We did have like 10 people show up. So that one was, I would say, successful. We most recently did the Whitney Tuck Memorial cleanup at the high school, in which we were very generously donated a lot of stuff from Lowe's, like I would say about $500 worth of plants and things that our forestry leader and our Parks and Recs leader had recommended that we plant there. So we have amazing, beautiful butterfly bushes growing there now, as well as some azaleas and etc. And I would like to say that we are now working on getting a plaque to remember Kiara Parker, who passed away her sophomore year of high school and would have graduated this year. So there is one bed that has not been dedicated to anybody. So I'm looking in putting our funds in getting a plaque for her that will last us a long time. So it's not going to be something to constantly update. And also for Whitney Tuck, there is a little bit of rotting on the back of his. So I was also going to look into getting that updated, and I will give it to Brady.
Alderman Welch.
So I'm Brady Welch, served as the mayor of Mayor's Youth Council this past year, and we did not have much of a club, much of a group this past year before I took the position as mayor. So I kind of wanted to restart the club this year, and when I did, I had 2 goals in mind. One was to learn about city government and how the city is run, and the second one was to offer the youth of Tullahoma an opportunity to serve their community. So throughout this school year, we have done a number of activities, including some of the ones that Lindsay listed, and I think that both of those goals were reached, and I'm very excited to see what Lindsay does this next year, as she was elected to be the next mayor for this next school year period. So going off of what she was talking about, we participated in a few field trips. We went as a group, the Mayor's Youth Council, to tour some of the different departments that Tullahoma has. So we got to tour the police department, the fire department, and the airport. All 3 of them were extremely informational. I think I can speak on behalf of everyone in Mayor's Youth Council that we learned a lot from all 3 of those places. There's a lot more that goes into those departments than we might think. There's a lot that goes on, and they sacrifice a lot for our community. So it was really interesting to see those things. To end this school year, we had a huge job shadowing day event. It was a lot of fun. I reached out to a bunch of different department heads with the city of Tullahoma, as well as some people that worked here in the Tullahoma Municipal Building, and we split off into groups and went to go job shadow a bunch of different individuals all across Tullahoma for the morning of this day, and then we all met back during lunch, and we had a little mock board meeting where all the students got to take the positions of some of the aldermen and the city recorder and the mayor, and we all got to act out our own little board meeting. It was a lot of fun, and I really just want to take this opportunity to thank some of the individuals that have helped us out this year, like Robin Morrison and McCook. Couldn't have done it without y'all. Y'all helped me so much, as well as City Administrator Jason Quick, also a huge help, and everybody on the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. This was founded because of you guys. We want to learn more about what y'all do. We want to hopefully one day be in y'all's positions. So just thank you for this opportunity we've been given this year, and I can't wait to see where Lindsay takes it next year. Thank you.
Thank you for your reports, and what a great job your Mayor's Youth Council has done this year, and thank you for your leadership. With that, we'll hear a report from our city attorney.
I was out of town last week, but I did have my law partner, Victor Hoskins, work with Mr. Quick and other people here in the administration for the matters that came up. Before I left, I did review the charter that the state sent to us that had been enacted by the legislature and signed by the governor, and made a list of the things that I noted therein for the committee to review while I was gone. And I assume that they did meet, and they did go over the information that I provided to them, as well as made their own examination of the charter itself. There were 3 or 4 things that the state changed after we presented to them the document that they said was satisfactory to them. So 2 or 3 of them were kind of confusing, like the one that Ms. Harris just pointed out a minute ago. I didn't see anything that was fatal to the charter, but there were some changes that were made there apparently arbitrarily that we didn't have any input into. But other than that, I think it's satisfactory.
We turn to the city administrator, Mr. Quick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm sitting over here beaming with pride. I'm a father of these 2 that are sitting in front of me, but if you want to know what Tullahoma's greatest resource is, it's these 2 sitting in front of you and all the others at Tullahoma High School. They are an amazing group, and that group that we had this year for the Mayor's Youth Council, there's a lot of excitement, there's a lot of passion in there, and it's a true, sincere desire to know what they can do to make the city better. When I think about, I know what you undertook at the Whitney Tuck area, and that was a tough undertaking. For them to do that without any prodding or anything tells you what kind of servant's heart that these young people have. So I just can't tell you how proud I am of both of you, and look forward to seeing you grow over the next few years. My report's going to be rather small or short as well. I may have said this before, I'm getting to the age where I can't remember, but I do again want to congratulate Sue Wilson, who was awarded the Businesswoman of the Year for Women Making Impact luncheon, which occurred a few weeks ago. Nobody more deserving in this city, from my perspective, of someone that truly does what's best for Tullahoma. We did hold a Peace Officer Memorial, which was a great ceremony put on by our police department. Also included members of the Manchester City Police, Coffee County Sheriff's Office, and we even had Moore County Sheriff's Office represented. And I know many of you attended and participated, and I can't think of a better way to honor those that have fallen, but also those that continue to serve our citizens. So I want to say I was really moved by that ceremony. As a reminder, our 4th of July fireworks is going to be occurring in the next several weeks on July 3rd. I hope everybody will show up and have a great time. And then the last, I've already talked about Sue, but her finance department has done an outstanding job over the course of the last 3 weeks with not only the budget, but also some other critical matters that sort of came out of the blue, if you will, from some issues with the city. And they have worked really hard nights, weekends. And I just want to say thank you and hope everybody understands what a great asset we have with our finance department. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Quick. With that, we'll go to the consent agenda. Of course, everything that's on the consent agenda are matters that should not require discussion. We'll approve those all in one action. Need a motion to approve them. There's a motion from Barry, seconded by Mann. Any question on the consent agenda? Now we're ready to vote.
Mr. Mayor, I abstain because I was not present for those meetings.
Consent agenda passes 6-0. Moving into unfinished business, we have ordinances. We're under the ordinance is an ordinance to amend the zoning map of the Tullahoma, Tennessee, as set forth in the municipal code to rezone parcel located along East Warren and South Anderson Street from C2 to C3. For passage on second and final reading. The motion from Barry, second by Mann. Any discussion? Ready to vote. Passes 7-0. Order number 1611, ordinance to amend Chapter 2 of the Building Code. This is by substituting an approved alternative for the State Fire Marshal for aircraft hangars for all separators requirement. This is for passage on the second and final reading. A motion from Quick and seconded by Barry. Question on the all separators for hangars. Not ready to vote. Passes 7-0. Item number 6, we're moving to item 24. Finishes the old business. We move into new business. Order number 1633, an ordinance to amend the zoning map of Tullahoma to rezone a parcel on 507 South Washington Street from general commercial C2 to general commercial, from neighborhood commercial to C3 for passage on the first of 2 readings. Any motion? Motion from Mann. Seconded by Wilson. Question on the rezoning. Ready to vote. Passes 7-0. Ordinance number 1634, an ordinance to amend the zoning map of the city of Tullahoma to rezone a parcel located along Southwest Atlantic Street with West Monroe Street from C2 to C3. First, for passage on first of 2 readings. Motion from Glick, seconded by Barry. Question on the ordinance. Ready to vote. This is 7-0. Ordinance number 1635, an ordinance to amend Title 11, Chapter 6 of miscellaneous by adding Section 615, unlawful solicitations, passed on the first of 2 readings, detailed that on page 111. Your motion? Motion by Barry, seconded by Mathis. And Mr. Barry, I believe that's your chair to introduce the motion.
Yes, Mayor. This is just a simple ordinance that kind of helps clean up some of the soliciting that we have going on. You can't go into some of the gas stations or stores without getting harassed or in the parking lots. And this, we don't really have anything in our ordinances to kind of handle some of these cases right now. And so this just kind of takes that and puts it into an ordinance, and it really talks more about things that are in an aggressive manner, our general solicitation, anything that's false or misleading, and that's the gist.
Alderman Mocker, you're recognized.
I think this is gross overreach of what our city board should be doing. Fine for city parks, fine for any type of city-owned land. You, as a city board, city administrator, it is not our place to regulate private-owned businesses, private-owned land. We do not need to tell them who can solicit, who can't solicit, what's appropriate for those locations. And what this is doing, and we're going to end up in another lawsuit if we were to keep going down this road, if we continue to try to place these generalized restrictions on things that could get into areas like freedom of speech. Needs to say specifically that this is only for city-owned property, because I am not in support of anything that places restrictions on businesses or non-governmentally owned land. That's not our place to do.
Alderman Berry, you recognize?
Yeah, I think that Ms. Almacher didn't read the ordinance because it does not restrict what I would not want to do is say the Salvation Army standing outside of Walmart, or if they want to do it. This ordinance does not prohibit that. If somebody gives you permission to do this on your private property, you can do this on your private property. What this does keep from doing is people randomly walking out in your alleyways or on the street corners or places where it's not permission, running out to your vehicle when you're stopped begging for money, or those are the things that this ordinance addresses. It does not address if I ask you to come even stand out in my driveway and solicit money. Those things are not. We're not controlling those things, because I agree with you. We don't have the right or the authority to do that.
Any further comments? Any further comments? We're ready to vote.
Well, I wasn't ready. I just wanted to be sure that this wasn't limited to if you were invited on a property to, if you were invited by or approved by a property owner to solicit on their property. This is not prohibiting any of that.
We can't control it unless it's a gross violation of the law.
Right.
It passes 6-0, 6-1. Next item is ordinance number 1636, an ordinance prohibiting the city of Tullahoma from donating, contributing to, or allocating funds to certain organizations. This is for passage on the first of two readings. Details of that are on page 118. Need a motion? Motion from Barry. Second by Mathis. Alderman Barry, I believe this is one you can introduce again.
Yes, this is, again, just kind of codifying something that already exists. So when we look at nonprofit allocations and those pieces already, a requirement is we can't do for-profit organizations, we can't do religious or politically affiliated organizations. And I understand Ms. Harris's point, and I do, what this does add, one that is not in there, is anything that's covered under Tennessee and Code Annotated 751-1401, which is the adult-oriented businesses clause. And so what we're really just doing is adding this in here, saying, hey, the city of Tullahoma is not going to donate money to any organization that is doing adult cabarets, adult motion pictures, theaters, any shows, exhibitions, performances, or presentations. We can't stop you from doing those things, and we don't want to, because it is your constitutional right to do those things if you want. But the city of Tullahoma should not be, in my belief, because it does violate state law, should not be allocating money to organizations that participate in those, because it is a violation of state law for them to be doing it.
Any questions? Any debate? Any comments? Alderman Lawmacher, you're up first.
This would preclude TIFs then, because tax increment financing is essentially giving money to nonprofit businesses. I mean, giving money to for-profit commercial businesses. You pass this, I'm fine with it, but because I don't think TIFs are appropriate either, but to me, it is so broad in its scope, then you would be precluding any sort of TIF.
I think some of the concerns were about donating money to a profit for a for-profit business, and the TIF may be considered that as well as more of a partnership rather than just a donation. It's a partnership between the city and a business to grow the city and add areas. So
It says contribution or allocation of public funds. So it would be a contribution and an allocation. Not to interrupt you, but I'm just saying the way it's written.
Yeah. Right. And that was what I was concerned about the other is just the language. And I think the sentiment behind it, and I just want to make sure that the language is legal and actually passing what we intend to pass. Have you?
This was dreaded by ours.
Oh, it was, okay.
It makes me feel so much better.
Alderman Wilson, you're recognized.
I actually was going to refer to the city attorney and see what his thought about that is.
Alderman Barry, you're recognized.
Well, I was waiting for the city attorney.
I'm sorry, I was talking to him.
I was
City attorney,
going to ask
you've been asked for your opinion.
what your opinion is about if this would preclude, if this item number would preclude us from accepting a TIF.
Well, I think you can amend the ordinance on second reading and just specifically allow for TIFs. There won't be any question about it if you did that.
Well, could there be language put in there too, or it could be where it would allow partnerships in projects, but not outright donations? Or
Sure. We can always amend these ordinances on subsequent readings, so we're going to have one more, and we can look at it. I wasn't called upon to look at this particular ordinance. I was not in my office last week, as I told you before, but we'll be happy to do that and come up with something I think that you all could live with in order to allow things like TIFs and also partnerships with other ventures that are in the best interest of the people of this town.
Ms. Austin, your name's been called.
Is the microphone on? Yeah, I think it is. Okay. Are you all talking about this? I know I edited a couple ordinances last week for you, so.
Yeah, the one about allocation of public funds.
Yes, yes. And the question is, will it allow for a TIF? Is that right? I think that the way that it's written right now, that it would, but I think you can also, of course, like Steve said, you can include language that specifically allows for that, if that's what you all want to do.
So the TIF is covered in a different section under Tennessee Code Annotated, and the TIF is specifically allowed by Tennessee state law. So I think that is an exclusion.
Not if you pass this ordinance.
What Tennessee TCA already talks about when we do our nonprofit allocations, it already says that you can't donate to these pieces. So if it is an issue, then we would have to have Tennessee, the state of Tennessee, change their code. It's also not an out, but I'm open to if somebody wants to specifically say, or, I'd rather wait till the occasion arises, and if the occasion arises, then you change the ordinance at that time versus kind of leaving it open and broad. But what I did here is I took what was already in TCA code, and I kind of put it all into one and added the adult entertainment in here.
Margaret, you recognize?
Yeah, so Tennessee Code Annotated allows for municipalities to opt into tax increment financing, but the municipalities then have the choice in the way they write their charter and how they draft their ordinances or their resolutions, whether or not they choose to allow for such contributions or allocations. I do believe it's basically like, for-profit promotion of certain corporate businesses, and there are others in the community, other things in our community that we could spend the dollars on that would be more worthy, personally. But I'm just one vote, and it's my understanding that there are multiple people on this board who do support tax increment financing. Where you would come into an issue is a group of citizens could potentially file a lawsuit if you pass this, and then you subsequently pass a TIF. Avoid the controversy head on. If you want to allow for a TIF, add it into this before you pass it. I cannot vote in good conscience for this, but again.
I'd like to make a motion that under Section 1, Item 1, for-profit organizations, we say any organization that is operated for profit with the exception of TIFs. Is that good enough?
I believe that I did a little bit differently, Mr. Mayor. I believe in section 1, the very first sentence there, I think at the end of that I'd say, except as is otherwise provided by law.
Except as is otherwise provided by state law. Does that, I make a motion to amend section 1 by adding except as otherwise provided by Tennessee Code Annotated.
Ready to vote on the amendment?
With that, let me ask you a question. Would that, in the example that Ms. Harris gave earlier, would that allow for a partnership with the city?
I don't think so.
With a
Probably, I don't know that it would, but there was also another statement made that said we should just trust. I'm going to be point blank. I don't trust who's coming after it. I know where you guys are conservatively. When it gets into religious organizations, there's going to be a day that we're not sitting on the board, right? And me sitting out here as a taxpayer, there are going to be organizations that I don't think the city of Tullahoma should be donating their money to. If we just open it up and say, okay, I do agree with this homeless shelter because it's from a church that I agree with, it's from a religion that I agree with, you're opening it up to all of them. And that may sound, I'm not excited at you.
No, I'm not.
And that may be, but I'm going to be honest, when you open that door, you open that door. And I don't trust everyone that comes after me. And whether I should or not, maybe, but I don't. And so that's my thing with the religion is I can't, and I thought about that when I did it, I can't have it all different ways. But what those organizations could do, so that church could do, or if there's a group of church or different organizations, then what they should do anyway is create a nonprofit that's separate from that. And then it's not a religious organization. So they could do that if they wanted, and it wouldn't prohibit that. But.
Okay, you're ready to vote on your amendment? Adding except as otherwise amended.
Yeah, it was to.
Except as otherwise provided by state law.
Amend section 1 by adding except as otherwise provided by state law. Tennessee Code Annotated.
I think it's too broad. I think it goes without saying, but I don't think it accomplishes what you're trying to do. I think you should specifically mention the TIF, but.
Ready to vote on the amendment?
Any comment from?
It was his verbiage.
That was it. Okay. That's okay.
Ready to vote on the amendment?
It's a second.
Motion to amend section 1 by adding except when otherwise.
Except as otherwise provided by state law or Tennessee Code Annotated. Ready to vote on the amendment?
Was it seconded?
No, it has to have a second. No, you got a second.
Second for the good to vote. Passes 6-1. Item number 12, resolution number 1986, a resolution to.
That was the.
Oh, go back and vote on the original amendment as amended. Excuse me. Ready to vote on the original motion as amended. It passes 4-3. Resolution 1986, a resolution to proclaim approval of a private act to amend the charter of the City of Tullahoma by enacting an entirely new charter effective July 1st, 2024. Charter starts on page 124. Motion by Mann. Second by Mathis. Oh, man, you can introduce the motion.
So, first off, I want to thank all the folks, and it's a long list, so I'll try and remember everyone that were a part of this. This has been a long effort. It was started, I believe, last July was the first time that the Charter Committee met. The Charter Committee's done an outstanding job. Sue Wilson, Lori, Jason Quick, our city administrator, Kenny Pearson, Mr. Worsham, and Ms. Hoskins. Everyone really contributed. I don't think I left anyone out. And I think MTAS was a big help too in the early days. We put the charter, the revisions together. We went through, took out some of the things that needed to be updated. It was sorely in need of an update. We brought it to this board. This board had, I believe, I know one study session, possibly two on it. There was a lot of ideas tossed around. There was a lot of things added to it. Some things we all agreed on, some things we didn't. But the overall finished product, I was very proud that this board voted the way it did to send it to the state. The state thoroughly reviewed this charter. It went through their legal department up at the legislature. And one comment I was told is that this was the most reviewed charter and looked at charter that they had during this cycle. So it has been vetted, it has been gone through. This board's done a great job with it. So I'm proud that here we are tonight. We did meet last week, the Charter Committee again, to look at some of the changes Mr. Worsham saw. And Ms. Hoskins, feel free to jump in if you'd like and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but all of the things that the state changed were, none of them changed what we were trying to accomplish in the charter. It was mostly just language changes, and overall we looked at it. It looked good to us. The essence of what we were trying to do was still the same as when we sent it to them. So that's what you have here tonight, and I want to thank everyone that was a part of this. It was a big job and needed. When I became an alderman back in February of 23, and I attended the elected officials class, the section on charters, they used an example of what your charter shouldn't be. And the example they used was ours at that time. And that was kind of the moment for me that I thought, this is something, that needs to be done. There was some pretty archaic things in our charter, and this takes care of that. And is really another comment I heard from the state was that this is a model for other cities that want to go and do this and update their charter. So very proud of this. Thank you all for what you've done. Thank all of you on the Charter Committee. Thank you to Rush and Janice, our state rep and state senator, and their staffs. It was definitely a team effort and took a village to get it here. So that's all I have.
While I am very appreciative of the work that went into this charter, this board has heard my objections to some of the changes that were made in this charter. And tonight I will be voting against the approval of the charter. I'm a strong advocate for those archaic changes that were made. There's some things that I'm adamantly opposed to, so I'll be voting against the charter change.
I was a pretty heavy proponent of those changes. However, I'm not a proponent of the effective date. I do not believe that it is fair to those who have already pulled papers, who have spent money on signs, and are already looking towards this August election. And to be candid with citizens of Tullahoma, I'm ready for my break. So August. It is. I too don't know that I am. I'm on the fence right now, but I'm leaning towards. I like the charter changes. I think they are for what's best for the city moving forward. I think there are also some things that need some polishing. I do think that it was rushed, and I don't think that was. I'll have to say the efforts of Mr. Mann were to be commendable, to be honest, as well as Mr. Berry on this. I think that they worked their tails off on this, and I don't think this is a dig at them. I think that the finished product is something to be very proud of. However, is it perfect? No, it's not, and the timing is not good. So I would like for the rest of the board to consider those things as we vote on this.
But ma'am.
So it's not perfect. I mean, nothing is. There were things that you and I both were opposed to that got put in here. But you don't throw the baby out with bathwater. I think that certainly those of us who chose not to put our name out there for re-election probably just as ready to leave in August as we are in November. For me, it's never been about that. There's too much else in this to just narrow it down to one or two things. There are things I would like to change here tonight in this, but overall, it's something we can all be proud of. And whether we leave in August or November, this is something we can leave and feel that we did a good job on, that it will benefit this city for years to come after we leave. And so I get it. I get we didn't get everything we want. It's not perfect. There are certainly things I'd like to see changed in it too, but let's not throw out the whole thing because of some minor issues.
Any further comments? Alderman Berry.
I'd like to echo Alderman Mann in his thanks, and also, with the whole board, because it was I don't think it was a rushed process. We started it back in September of last year.
Or
July of last year. We had several occasions with public. Your committee met constantly. We went through some sessions, and they were long sessions. And I agree, we didn't all. There's some things in here that I ended up voting to amend on that I didn't necessarily agree with. But when it comes to the charter, I think that it was an occasion where we all compromised. And I think what we're supposed to do as a board is you don't get everything that you want, but you find some common ground. And I think that we did that throughout this process, and I'm proud of that. I think that there's a lot of changes in here that I'm going to say it again. We were told earlier that we need to trust the people that come after us, and it's not to any candidate out here, right? We could be talking 5-10 years down the road. I don't. I'm going to be sitting on the other side of this. I've been on this board for 5 years, and there are things in this charter that, hampered us as aldermen, and I feel kind of took the aldermen's, made us limp, right? And I think that that's changed, and it made it to where this body as a whole can actually do our job and represent the public and have a say in some of these things. And that's not a jab at anybody else that came before us, but I don't think that anybody. This was first done in the 50s, and it's taken until 2024. No board in the past, and I don't know that there'll be a board in the future that will have the cojones to do some of the things that we finally listened to people and said we're going to do, and we did it. So I do support it, and I thank you for your work on this. However it turns out, I thank you for your work on it.
Alderman Walker, you're recognized.
I have a question for the city attorney. What's the legality on proposing a different effective date?
If it's written in the resolution signed by the governor with an effective date, we can't change it. It's got to be exactly like it was sent to us by the governor.
And it has the effective date on it?
I believe it does. I don't have the, I'll see if I have a copy of it here.
It does, July 1st.
Page 124 of the agenda.
Vote of legislative body on be effective July 1st, 2024.
All right, thank you.
One more comment. Timing is just getting in the way, I think. Citizens, even though they don't agree with me, I do agree with them on this one. The citizens deserve a little more time to process these changes. While I am in support of the changes, I am not in support of the timing. And there are members of this body who will still be here in a few months. You can carry the torch and make sure that those changes do get implemented along with the other corrections and revisions. There's no reason why this thing can't be resubmitted in a few months with the changes that are needed, passed back through the legislature. It's already been vetted once. You would only need to mark, hey, here's the only couple of things we've changed. Are these satisfactory? And pass it again by next year. You're right. It's been 50 years. Let's not do just any old job because it's been 50 years. Let's do it right. And let's be the board who got the ball rolling. We don't have to be the one who made all the changes.
Okay, we're ready to vote. I will point out that in section 4 of it says this action will have no effect unless it's approved by a 2/3 vote of the legislative body. And it requires a five vote approval. So no other comments, we're ready to vote. The vote is 4 noes and 3 yeses. So it fails. A 4-3 vote failed. Moving right along. Resolution number 1987. A resolution to amend the City of Tullahoma's FY24 operating budget. Motion from Barry, second from Mathis. Turn to the city administrator for the background on this operating budget.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm going to let Sue Wilson, who drafted the resolution.
This is amendments. This is the FY24 operating budget.
Right, the resolution. So I want to let Sue Wilson address this.
Yes, Mayor, members of the board. This resolution is addressing the ability to sustain budgets for both the Tullahoma City and the Tullahoma City schools. We have a maintenance of effort with the Tullahoma City schools, which is affected by the annual increases in sales tax. We hadn't really addressed this in the past because sales tax had been relatively low, and in the last 3 or 4 years, it's taken off and become a huge part of our budget and a huge part of their budget, and it's developing a new base for what we're required to maintain. In upturns, downturns, we would be required to make up the difference in the sales tax by property tax. What this amendment does is it amends this year's budget to basically capture that sales tax at the level and the property tax at the level of last year's actual. So that you then have the option of using any additional funds towards something the board may deem appropriate, be it infrastructure, be it saving it toward capital projects for the school, but you are not building it into the maintenance of effort where it becomes locked. And that's the intent of this.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. Okay, Ms. Wilson.
Thanks, Mayor. There's a way that we can add that in to this budget that we're passing right now?
Yes, and then that would keep us at the FY23 final results, but it would not increase it by any growth in this year.
Yeah, I'm definitely a proponent for that.
So if we make this amendment to the FY24 budget, we can do a similar thing with our proposed FY25 budget.
Right, and that does not preclude the two boards working together toward capital projects, toward one-time issues. We would continue to fund the sinking fund in the manner that we always have funded it based on the Private Act. So it just sets the maintenance of effort so that it only grows on a planned basis, not on a random basis.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. To distinguish, this would be Ms. Wilson, Alderman Wilson. Any further comments? Alderman Almacher.
At our joint session, I made the comment, and I don't know if a lot of people have realized this, but the reason that we talk a lot about the maintenance of effort and the dollars that we spend on our school system is obviously that is our biggest investment that we make. If you look at the percentage of the money that we give to the school system, while it's roughly how much of our budget, what's the percentage of our budget that actually goes towards the school system? I think I said it.
40%.
About 40%.
Yeah, about 40% of our budget, it only makes up about 10% of theirs. So while it's a huge, portion of the money that we expend here, we are almost like a drop in the bucket compared to the monies that they're receiving in. So even though we have separate boards, I feel like there has been a separation of not just the boards, but of the ideologies of the working together. There needs to be more of a collaborative effort between this board and the school board in working together towards these needs for the kids, and that has to happen sooner rather than later. And I think that this will force that because we have to make sure that we are spending these dollars wisely, because they have a lot more coming in than what we have to give out. And obviously, they have a lot more needs. And as we continue to grow, they're going to continue to have those needs. So I'm in support of this.
Any further discussion? Not, we're ready to vote.
I have a comment.
Oh, excuse me, Ms. Wilson. Alderman Wilson?
And I would also like to add, I am all for, giving our kids the best start and everything that they need. But we can't get ourselves, and I don't know how much of this that there may be some at home that are tuning in that have never heard this before, but once we have committed X amount of dollars in the tax, when times are good, that's great. But if our sales slip down and we don't have as much tax, then we are still committed at the higher tax level. And so, we can't, while we want to contribute to our schools, we also can't find ourselves in a situation where we just don't have the money to give them. And legally, we are required to. So
we don't want to raise taxes.
We don't want to raise taxes. So I'm a huge proponent of this.
So this has nothing to do with giving the schools more or less money. It's just how we raise the money to give the schools.
Yes, you will still have the option of working with the boards. What the state recommends for capital, for one-time capital purchases, is defining those separately and working with the boards where you actually issue a resolution stating that you are going to provide X amount of funding, but that it is not part of the maintenance of effort. It is for a one-time capital.
Any further discussion? Now we're ready to vote. Did you get that? 6-1 passed. Item number 2473, a request from the city administrator to renew the contract with the Department of the Navy, the Navy History and Heritage Command, and the City of Tullahoma for the loan of the U.S. Navy and the U.S. Ships Bell, and authorize the mayor to sign the contract. Need a motion? Motion from Barry, second by Mann. City Administrator, recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As many of you have seen, we have the USS Tullahoma Navy Bell in our front conference room. It's one that we get to enjoy, but also citizens who come in and use that conference room also get to see that. USS Tullahoma was commissioned and in action in 1863. So we have had a contract with this organization for quite some time. It's basically a renewal. In looking at the renewal, which is part of your agenda packet, I've gone through to make sure that we're meeting those requirements, to make sure that we're securing that as needed, all the way down to the temperature controls and those types of things, what it can and can't be used for. So this is basically just asking for a renewal of the same agreement that we've had over the past several years with this organization.
Any question? Ready to vote?
Hang on, I have one comment. When I first read this agenda item made no sense to me, because it was like loan agreement, loan. Like, are we borrowing money from the Navy? What is going on here? Like, and they're like, oh, it's about the bail. So just FYI, maybe the wording next time. We're not borrowing money from the Navy. If anybody reads that, it's like loan from the Navy. No, it's the bail that is on loan to us. So just in case.
Point well taken.
Ready to vote. Passes 7-0. Item number 2474, a request from the city administrator to nominate and appoint a qualified applicant to the Tullahoma Airport Authority Board to fill an unexpired term ending February the 26th, 2027. This is unexpired term of Paul Sirks, who passed away recently. We've heard from one candidate who was here tonight, and you all received emails from Mr. Tom Gillard expressing his desire to serve on the board and his qualifications. So at this time, accept nominations. Barry.
Nominate Brad Holt.
Ms. Holt's been nominated. I'll nominate Tom Gillard. He's had a pretty valid excuse for not being able to be here tonight.
I had a question on that. There was a third person that you didn't mention on
Steve
there.
McCamey.
Did he pull his?
He was asked to come tonight, and he didn't show up to speak. Mr. Steve McCamey.
Robert McCamey.
Robert Steve McCamey.
Did he withdraw his application? Because his application.
He did not withdraw his application. He was contacted, indicating he would be here tonight. He didn't come.
Okay.
He didn't express why.
Okay.
Any further nominations? No, we'll pass out a ballot.
We got ballots.
Write your names on them.
Oh, did you write your name on it?
Yeah, I did.
Mr. Gillard. Kirklick for Mr. Gillard. Berry for Mr. Holt. Wilson for Mr. Gillard. The mayor for Mr. Gillard. Almacher for Mr. Holt. Mathis for Mr. Holt. And Mann for Mr. Holt.
4 for Holt and 3 for Gillard. Mr. Holt is appointed to the airport board. Moving on to item number 16, item number 2475, a request from the city administrator to approve the annual renewal memorandum of understanding to permit the Tennessee Corrections Academy to use the city of Tullahoma's community centers, temporary emergency centers. Got a motion from Ms. Almacher, Alderman Almacher. 1 second for getting on the floor. Ready to vote? Let's just go to the city administrator. Ready to vote? Passes 7-3. Item 2477, a request from the Parks and Rec to approve a performance agreement with Allen Radio in the amount of $3,500 to authorize the mayor to execute a contract. It's on page 186, and it has to do with our celebration on the 4th of July, which is on the 3rd of July. Motion? Motion from Wilson, seconded by
Mayor, this is 6-wire. This one, you kind of went out of order.
Page 184.
The only reason I mention it is because that's what it says on our screen.
Okay, let's see if we can crank this up and get it right. Item number 2476, a request from Parks and Rec to approve performance agreement with 6-wire in the amount of $7,500 for the performance for Independence Day celebration and authorize the mayor to execute the contract. City Administrator, you want to bring that? We need a motion. We've got a motion from Glegg, second by Alderman Wilson. Our Parks and Rec Director.
6-wire is the performer for the 4th of July. They've been there about 5 years in a row now. They also perform, they're the house band for the Nashville Predators, and they performed on the stage with the NFL draft when it was in Nashville.
Okay, we got a motion from Glick and a second by Alderman Wilson. Barry, you're recognized.
We got a bunch of these coming up. I'm just going to say it on the first one. We're looking at budgeting right now. I'm going to vote for this, right? But I think it needs to be said. We're looking at budgeting. We've talked about our revenue income is right around 2%. Our tax, we're looking at right around, sales tax, right around 3%, 60% of which the school system will get. When we do the departments made the request for budget items for new personnel, for new equipment, new pieces like that, we're not including any of that in our budget because we don't have the money. What was recommended to us was a tax increase, which none of us are going to do. But with that comes decisions, right? We've got budgeted $60,000. Is that right?
It's 65.
We have budgeted $65,000 for the fireworks. I'm a huge proponent of the fireworks, right? It's a regional, it's incredible. It brings people from all over. It is a nice to have. It does bring a lot of people from the city together, but it also brings people from out of town. And while it's not really a revenue generator, right? People are coming and eating it, and I hate bringing this back up because I want to get slapped for it again. It's going to bring people eating at the food trucks and those pieces there. The problem with those food trucks, right, is the vast majority of them, I'd say probably 80, 90% of those, aren't from Tullahoma. So not a dime of that comes back to Tullahoma. Food trucks have their sales tax done differently than everyone else for whatever reason. That money goes back to wherever they came from. We can have the whole discussion of the offset ball, whatever. I'm not saying let's cut fireworks, but we used to do a good job of fundraising to help offset some of these costs. I think $65,000 is a little insane. I understand costs, and that's not a knock on anybody. But we're in this, and we're going to have some of these conversations later about the budget where we've got to make these choices. And so what I would like to know is what is our plan for fundraising to offset these costs? What's our target amount that we're trying to get? Who's in charge of it? How are we going to do it to get this down from 65,000 to, I don't know what an acceptable amount is, but I'd love to see half of that knocked off. And so I guess that's a question to you. What is our plan to?
I would agree. One of the things that I think is a really strong opportunity for us is because of the popularity of the fireworks celebration, it is an opportunity for a regional, local company to come in and be maybe the headline sponsor. And so we have gold, silver, and bronze memberships, but I really believe that, in fact, I just had this conversation with Emma Cook, our community engagement officer. I believe there are those out there that could take advantage of being the headliner, so to speak, of the support of the fireworks. With that said, I feel very comfortable. I don't feel comfortable giving you an answer on what that fundraising number would be. I know what I have in my head, and I think based on Ms. Cook's reaction, it was pretty strong that a lot of this should be funded by sponsorship. Half, I think that's more than doable, and that's something that I would like for us to shoot for next year.
Or this year.
We are doing that now. We have $5,800. We have $5,000 already committed from one of our beer distributors. We are expecting another $5,000, not included in this $5,800. We're expecting another $5,000 from another distributor. Vanderbilt Hospital has been involved, and then First Bank has been involved. We do have some calls that basically, and unfortunately, some of these organizations have to run it through a chain of command, and kind of like we have to wait for them to sign off on it. But we do have those out there right now, so I can guarantee you we have 5,800 of it covered. I feel more comfortable that we could have up to 20 of it before the first firecracker goes off on the 3rd.
Can we set a goal for 20?
We currently have budgeted, in this budget, we have budgeted for $25,000 because that has happened. We have a precedent. We have done that before.
So does that, 30? Yeah, so can we do 30? So does that mean, does that 65,000 include that budgeted 25? So if we don't hit that 25, does that money go into that 60? So it could potentially cost us $85,000?
No.
No.
65 is our, no. 65 is the total cost. We have 25 budgeted. If we could get 40, then that kind of makes us whole, I guess, if you will. And so then we would break even on that. I can assure you that we were going to do everything we can to go and get more sponsorship dollars.
I'd love to see that in priorities. I mean, it's just really tough to swallow with some of the decisions that we're going to have to make to say.
Have we historically got 25 each year?
Not each year, but you'll remember some of the earlier years we did. We had a bit of a slowdown, like we had some turnover and changes, and we did not last year.
Yeah, I think you got to work it pretty hard to get the money. It just doesn't come to you.
I heard Jason just volunteered to go door knocking.
I heard him.
I heard it. We're going to take that as gold.
Luckily, this is not being recorded.
You're a salesman. You got it?
I think he's paid enough to do it.
Okay. Item number 2476 for Six Fire. Ready to vote. Passes 7-0. Item number 2477. Final radio, $3,500. Motion. Motion from Gregg. Second by Alderman Wilson. For discussion. Ready to vote.
Jeffrey, I think you're good. Thank you for everything you do for the city of Tullahoma. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Passes 7-0. Well, item number 2478. Myers Concert Production for $14,497 for Independence Day celebration. Motion. Alderman Almacher. Seconded by Alderman Gregg. Ready to vote? Passes 7-0 as well. Item number 2479. Pyro show from Pyro Show 27.5. Ready to vote? And that passes 7-0 as well. Next one was a little bit different item. 2480. A request from the Parks and Rec to approve funding to replace a portion of the KHS main sewer that flows through Drive Stadium and authorize the mayor to execute pertinent documents. project cost is $25,400, and that's to be shared with the Tullahoma City School. City's portion of that is $12,700. Motion from Harris, second by Mann. Turn to City Administrator for background.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This was an unfortunate emergency request that came upon us a few weeks ago. Basically, we have a private, what is considered by TUA, a private sewer line, which is what we have around Grider Stadium, which is what we own. 80%, if I'm not mistaken, 80% of the flow that comes through our pipe comes from THS. Unfortunately, the issue is on our property. So basically, we've got to replace about a football field worth of pipe. And since it's privately owned land, TUA has stated that it's our concern to take that and get that taken care of. We have contacted Tullahoma City Schools. We've explained the problem. You'll see the map that's next to it, and they have agreed to share half the cost to get that repaired, as they realize that it services their buildings. So 4 out of the, I think, 5 buildings that are affected by this particular drain comes from THS. So what we're asking is that you allow us to approve, or that you will approve the project and allow us to pay the half that will go into getting this rectified. And I do want to say thank you to JP and to Butch Taylor, working with Hank Jordan, Tim Jensen from Tullahoma City Schools, to come up with a resolution that made sense for both sides.
Walker, you're recognized.
The man that stood before you tonight, Mr. Quick, was a man who was one of the first in the nation to know how to do pipe bursting. And we used to do it here in the municipality of Tullahoma. How it has long been done is you would bid these projects through the city when something like this would arise. Is there a particular reason why we have not put this out to bid?
One is we went with who TUA requested, but number two, it's an emergency request. So the opportunity to get a bid out, to get the bids back before baseball tournaments, before July 3rd celebration, was of utmost importance to us. So that's why we went with this route.
I think in the future, if we should have somebody who has a contract with the city for those emergency repairs, rather than just picking, oh, this person has been recommended. There are multiple utility providers, and this business, my dad is retired. It's very cutthroat. It doesn't affect him, but it is very cutthroat, and I don't think it's quite fair to just say TUA is not a city entity, and to just take someone else's, you should hire these people. I find that a little concerning, and I don't believe that it would follow our normal policies and procedures. Typically, we would bid it, or you need to have somebody on retainer to do, or on backup to do these types of emergency repairs, that we have bid that out in advance. I understand the need for it, but you want to make this as fair as possible for your businesses in town, and we do have several in town that do this type of work.
You're recognized.
I'm happy with that we got some partnership with the city schools on this. However, I was wondering if they had 80% of the usage, why is it 50% cost?
You kind of get into a situation where if we asked them for 80% of the cost, I don't know if that was there. I was out of town, but no excuse. I don't know if that was approached as to the 50%. We were looking at it as, honestly, it's our cost. It's on our land. Technically, they don't have to pay for any of that. Now, if we don't fix it, then Tullahoma High School, the football stadium, the quarterback club, concession stand, the field house, they're going to have problems in about 3 weeks. And then it becomes a really big issue. So that's the route that we took. JP, I don't know if you can add to that.
Bear some of the responsibility. The clay line, the trees in Fraser McGinn Park are growing into the clay sewer line. And then also we did call Prince Utilities, and Prince Utilities also recommended LTS. So we did check with other companies.
My understanding is there was raw sewage
Yeah.
There was 2 on our field.
So I will tell you, we had an episode that occurred, I'd say about a month ago, where we were in the midst of a regional playoff game with Tullahoma High School, and the bathrooms, I mean, immediately blew up at the concession stand. And fortunately, again, going back to the partnership, we were able to contact TUA. TUA sent people out there within an hour, had it all taken care of, and didn't charge us for that. We were looking at, are we going to need to get porta potties? So that was a sign that something could be coming. We didn't know that was going to be where we are today.
For the record, I too recommend LTS. I'm just saying. There are lots of competitors. Who competitors?
Any questions? If we can solve this problem for $12,700, I recommend approval. Ready to vote? Passes 7-0. Item number 2481, request of the city administrator to approve funding of $40,946.99 to upgrade our data backup solution and authorize the mayor to execute the agreement. That detail is on 208, and you also received an email with further explanation today. Got a motion from Barry, seconded by Mann. City administrator, you recognized.
This is something that I detailed in the email to you and explained what the need was, why it was there. It is a critical need for the city, and I hope you will support this request.
Any discussion? Now we're ready to vote. Passes 7-0.
Mr. Mayor, may I make a comment? I just want to publicly commend Adam Booker, our IT manager, for the work that he has done on this. It has taken a lot of energy and effort, and quite honestly, a lot of expertise and knowledge that we at the local level haven't had, from my understanding, in quite some time. But I want to say we really appreciate what he has done for us to make sure that our network systems are exactly where they need to be from a backup standpoint.
Question I would have is, how soon will this be implemented?
So we already have everything aligned to place the order. The hardware is actually in stock, so it'll be shipped out as soon as possible. They're waiting for me to let them know in the morning, and then the install will be planned for before June 30th.
Before June 30th?
Yes.
2 weeks, essentially.
That's the plan.
Thank you. Any further questions? Ready to vote? You've got a question on there?
We already voted on.
Yeah. Well, I beg your pardon. What was the vote?
7-0.
7-0. Well, I already voted down. It's getting late. Item 23. Item number 2482, a request from Alderman Berry to schedule a study session to evaluate the current allocation of our hotel motel tax or tourism dollars to develop an ordinance to revise a structured framework for these funds. Motion from Berry, seconded by Mathis. Alderman Berry, you can introduce the motion.
First, I want to say on this one and the next one that nobody needs to panic, right? Every year, I've been here 5 years, every year we talk about our nonprofit, we talk about our funding and our allocations. Every year, this is another one that every year we talk about we're going to look at that, we're going to come up with a plan, we're going to study it, but every year we don't do it. So this is, I had worked on two separate ordinances and drafted and met with the city administrator, Ms. Wilson, and Ms. Cook, to kind of toss those around a little bit, get their feedback. And so this first one is for the nonprofits. And what it is for us to kind of take a step back and let's actually put into ordinance, let's put into a process on how we allocate these monies, and finally be the year that we actually do it, instead of kicking that can. Once again, it's just a study session, is what all I'm asking for here, but I just want to get everybody's buy-in on that first, instead of just scheduling it. Let's see if there's any appetite. If there's not any appetite, then, you know.
Is this 2482 or 83? Or just both, they're the same?
Yeah, they're going to be the same, but we're on the first one. Yeah. That's the sum of that.
Well, one comment, we kind of thought we had worked on a process to do that, and we were going to score the nonprofits and rank them as to how well they presented themselves, what the benefit they were, and how they used the money, etc. We did that, and we didn't get much response from participation.
Yeah, I think two of us turned that in. But this is a little bit separate from that. It's not just scoring. It will put in we'll talk about how often you can be funded, how much you can be funded, schedules, and kind of some small MOUs to say, hey, when we give you this, we expect this back. We did receive some in the questionnaire, some information about how money was spent and those things, but I mean, most of them really didn't allocate, right? Basically said, you know, we had $5,000 and we spent it on ourselves. And so some of the things that I want to dig into is reporting and actually telling us where, again, we're in the middle of a budget. We've had to tell our departments, no, you can't hire. No, you can't get this new equipment. No, you can't get these pieces. But in the meanwhile, we're sending out $250,000, almost $300,000 to other people. When you hop on an airplane, one of the things that, as they're doing this, they tell you, put your oxygen mask on first. I'm not saying let's take any money away, but I am saying if we put money out, we better be daggum sure that it's being spent where it needs to be spent.
More like a grant application, I think. But
yep.
I agree.
I think.
Okay, I'll you've got a.
Yeah, I think that the process. Once the allocation is set and it's a percentage, then you know I don't. Huh?
That's the next one. This is the nonprofits, not the tourism.
Actually,
it does say tourism dollars on it. Yeah, so it is a percentage. I think that, and I hate to, I don't think this should be socialistic, in other words. I believe that there are certain organizations that we fund every year that are absolutely doing what the money is meant to do. And I think that that's South Jackson. I think that's Tullahoma Fine Arts Center. I don't want to put more work on those organizations, but if we're giving money to organizations that aren't necessarily, I'm just going to say it, the chamber. I want to know what the chamber spends $35,000 on. I want to know. We're giving them the most money, and I would like to know specifically, I think it should be grant funded with that kind of allocation. Let me know what is your plan for this money, and it needs to be approved.
This is just to set a study session so we can have the conversation.
Right, and I'm probably not going to be able to be at that study session, so I'm letting my thoughts and opinions on this know now, since it's on the agenda. So if you think that there should be a better or new process. If you don't think there should be a process at all, then we don't need the study session. But I'm in agreement that there probably needs to be a process. But I think we need to, I think it needs to be entity by entity that we need to go through, because again, I do not want to put more work on those individuals who are already doing the lion's share and are getting pennies on the dollar to what others are getting. I just don't think that that's right. So there's my 2 cents worth before I get there.
Alderman Wilson.
I think that I'm all for a study session on both of these items. I think it's long overdue. We talked about it last year, and it's time to, there's no time like the present.
Let's vote on whether we're going to have a study session or not, and if we're going to have a study session, I'll see what the date will be and get in touch with you as to when it will be. Passes 7-0. To have a study session, and I will be scheduling that. Item number 2483, request from Alderman Berry to schedule a study session, and I one or more study sessions to develop a comprehensive plan for nonprofit funding plan. The outcome of the study of the session will be the plan of allocating funds based on community goals, etc. And Alderman Berry, and second by Alderman Vick. And Alderman Berry, you might just talk about the differences in those two items.
Yeah, the difference is, one, it's just the groups. So we fund organizations differently. Our hotel motel, the first one, that comes out of hotel motel tax. So when somebody stays at one of our hotels, there's a tax on that. We get some of the money back. That's tourism dollars. This one here is nonprofit allocations. This just comes from general fund money. And so it's really just, I did them separate because they are two separate conversations that we need to have.
We could have them on the same night.
Could they not
Absolutely.
Could they not be both done at the same study session?
Absolutely, they can. I just wanted to treat them different.
It seems like they're just too intertwined to not do them at the same study session.
Well, yeah, we can do them at the same, but we need to have one, because the approach to these, I think, needs to be different, right? There's different requirements. Tourism has different requirement from a community organization. So let's do them on the same night, but we still need to have the conversations separate, and there'd be a separate ordinance for each. Yeah.
Alderman Allmark.
So, thought crossed my mind on the last one. Tourism dollars, fireworks show, tourism. I also think that maybe we should be considering that, can we use those funds towards our fireworks? Just one thought. But the allocating funds on this, I'm fine with having a study session. I'm fine with you creating the criterion. But again, you act like there's an unlimited budget. We've done this every year. I think you need to say, okay, we're going to give out this amount of money this year. Here's how we're going to factor it. Here's how we're going to score it. Let's set a limit. We are at the ATM making it rain every year on people who just come in with a handy-dandy application and then spot picking and choosing who gets what monies. I just don't think it's right. Have a set budget, focus on set needs, and, since we're passing the budget tonight, this is why I'm bringing this up now, I think that needs to be factored into the budget. What is going to be our expenditure, and what are we going to cap it at? I think we should have a cap on this before we just go in and say, well, because let me be honest with you, there are going to be a bajillion stories and reasons and things that are worthy of us giving them money. There's going to be more and more every year. There are worthy people doing worthy causes that I would give them everything I had, but we have to set a limit. Got to set a limit.
Alderman Berry.
Yeah, I think this is an example of what happens when you come in night of and read the agenda items, because that's exactly one for five.
If you attack me again,
For 5 years, I'm an advocate of getting rid of all of it. So, to say
Come
that
in
I'm,
and read it the night of.
to say that I'm looking at it as an unlimited budget is no. The entire purpose of this is for us to step back and stop doing as she said and pretend we're sitting in front of a strip club just throwing money out.
You're just mad that you're not going to be the next mayor. Could you just shut up?
Alderman, I'm not here.
Well, his comments were too.
We're good.
Ready to vote. Call a vote. That passes 5-2. So we will schedule at least one study session for this. You'll be advised. Going back to item number 6. Ordinance number 1632, an ordinance of the City of Tullahoma adopting the annual budget and a tax rate beginning July 1st, 2024 and ending July 2025. Need a motion? Motion from Barry, seconded by Glick. Alderman Barry, you recognize.
So the reason that I had asked to have the budget moved last was because, and these still may not pass, but I wanted to see if there was an appetite at all. Sorry, my twitching. So we're passing the budget, and that has amounts in it right now, right? We don't want to pass the budget with amounts. What we just talked about is we're going to do a study session to talk about these type of things. Are we going to put a max on it? I don't think that's something that we need to decide tonight. We need to have some sort of framework in place first. So I've got 2 motions, and I wrote it down because it's complicated-ish. The first motion is to amend this budget by moving the amounts that are currently allocated in the FY 24-25 budget for all but the accounts listed below to a contingency fund until such time as the board has approved a formal process. And this is for the hotel motel. And when it says all but, the ones to zero out all of them except for these. And these are ones that we have an obligation to pay because that's city property, so the exceptions would be South Jackson insurance, utilities, and repairs. Out of the hotel motel, those are the ones that we have an obligation. They are ours, we have to pay. So in essence, it's let's zero those out for now. Don't allocate the money anywhere else. Put it in a contingency so that it is there, but not pass the budget with the numbers in there when we aren't sure. I'll go into more. I need to see if I get a second first. Sue, that's a question.
Alderman Wilson, excuse me. Alderman Wilson, Finance Director, you're recognized.
Can I ask why you're also doing the amendment for the South Jackson part, that you also include city beautification? Because that is money that the city maintains for beautification things, and we already have obligations, for example, in like maintaining downtown mowing.
Yep, include that. That's something we're obligated to do, yeah.
We have some.
I was trying to hit the ones that are our obligate, like we have to do. Yeah.
Do you have that written down somewhere that I can look at?
I handed it to, if you can read my writing, it's not great.
We have an amendment to the motion. We ask the city recorder to read the amendment so that we all understand it. Since I have a second while she's doing this
part of the discussion. This isn't, I'm not saying anybody panic, and we're not going to give any amounts, right? So this is not saying that nobody needs to get in an uproar. I'm not saying that the board will choose to fund anybody, but all this is doing is, as we pass this budget, if we pass it with the numbers in there, then that's what we're committing to doing. And the thought is, let's figure out what we want to do before, to Alderman Allmacher's point, let's figure out what we want to do before we commit ourselves.
City Administrator, read the amendment.
You got a promotion?
Move the amount currently allocated in the fiscal year 24-25 budget for all but the accounts listed below to a contingency fund until such time as the board has approved a formal process. The listed below was South Jackson Insurance, Utilities, and Repairs.
Add the beautification.
Any questions on the amendment? Ready to vote on the amendment? Amendment passes 5-2. Now we're ready to vote on the original motion as amended. Alderman Berry, you recognize.
So I'd like to make the same text, but this is for community organizations, except the following: senior citizens, senior center appropriations, utilities, and operating insurance. This is a longer list. The Balts utilities, Balts repairs, Balts building is just how it was listed. South Central Human Resources, and the Tennessee Rehabilitation. And these are, again, ones that we are already obligated to pay. They are either our land, or like there's the two state agencies. When we don't fund them, did I have the library? The library needs to be on there. The other two are state agencies that when we don't fund, their allocations are cut. And same premise as before. We're not saying we're not going to get, but let's not. That money goes to contingency. And if we decide that we want to hand that out, then we do, and how we want to do it. But let's get a process in place first.
So this is another amendment to the original motion. Recorder will read the amendment.
Move the amounts currently allocated in the fiscal year 24-25 budget for all the accounts listed below to a contingency fund until such time as the board has approved a formal process, to include the senior citizen appropriations, utilities, operating insurance, Balts utilities, Balts repairs, Balts building, South Central Human Resource, Tennessee Rehabilitation, and the library.
Any questions on the amendment? Ready to vote? Passes 5-2. We're ready to vote on the original motion as amended.
No, I got another.
We voted on 2 amendments.
Yep, I have more. It's budget season. It's the second reading. I'm hoping that others have some as well, so it's not always just me. I spent the weekend digging into the budget. I'm not going to repeat, but we need to make decisions. We need to actually take a look at the budget and find ways that we can save money. I'm not going to make an amendment on this one, but it is something that I would like for the board to consider, and I don't know that it necessarily affects their budget. When we look at Splash Island, we had this conversation, I think, last meeting. We're currently open 10 hours a day. Does everybody have one of these?
There's 2 pages.
What I did was took which first, thank you to our Parks and Rec JP and Josh, and they did an outstanding job in a pinch too. That was a lot of work putting that together, and they gave us all kind of an overview of the expenses that we had asked for related to Splash Island and the pool. Our last director, in between Mr. Glick and Dave Anderson, had combined all these into one under our budget, so they weren't split out before. And so they did a fantastic job. What I did is I kind of took that information that they had and I split it out into the human capital side of it. The lifeguards, the aquatics instructors, the cafe lead, and I have cafe lead twice, but one's cafe lead, the first one's just the cafe in general. And it takes currently we're open from 10:30 a.m. to 8:30 p.m., 10 hours. And so what I kind of did, and I've got some questions out to look at, are we able to use our POS to pull numbers to see when are our busy times, when aren't our busy times, et cetera, et cetera. If we reduce, so each of these has our current hours opening and the adjusted hours. If we reduce by 2 hours each day from say Splash Island 10:30 to 6:30 p.m. I was out there, I drove by Sunday, I do every church, and there's like 30 people out there, 15 of those are our employees, right? And so this is kind of just a quick study. By reducing the number of hours that we're open from 10 hours a day to 8 hours and then 7 on Sunday, we're looking at roughly $57,355 a year that we can save just on the employee side of it. And I'm not making an amendment because I'm waiting on some of these income numbers or to see if our POS can get us. It is a quality of life thing, right? But if we can say, if there's 5 people using it, 20 people, 15 people using it, do we tax the rest of everybody else out there $60,000 for that? And then you think about the money that Parks and Rec, one thing is Splash Island, from what I understand, every year is underfunded. It's not fully funded. So every year what we've got to do is pull money from somewhere else in Parks and Rec budget to move it into Splash Island. So that's park maintenance, or that's a facility maintenance. That's another thing in Parks and Rec that they're not. So I'm suggesting that maybe we take a look at this, and I'm not saying let's pull $57,000 from Parks and Rec. I think we leave it in there, because if we could give Parks and Rec $60,000 back, because you look at I got the indoor on here too, and we can reduce that by some, and close to $40,000. You're looking about roughly $100,000. Of course, there's going to be some revenue loss from the cafe, but we don't know how much. Hopefully the POS will tell that if we can look at the hours. And so that's kind of my general thought is, And I've been going through other parts of the city budgets as well to look for different things like that. I'll stop there, but.
Yeah, I have a comment.
I do too.
I'm glad you're recognized.
For one thing, I think it's not the only thing that I kind of disagree with about this, but I think you made an error in your numbers on this, because I think you did it by 16 weeks, and they're only open, if I did my math right, you did it by 16 weeks, they're only open 10 and a half weeks.
May 5th to September, Labor Day, it should be 16.1.
I believe 10 and a half weeks is 10 and a half weeks. I don't think they open May 5th, do you?
No, we open,
Sorry, May 15th.
we open when school gets out, which was May 24th.
May 24th.
And we will close when school goes back in, which is, I believe, August 1st. Is that right? August 1st.
We had the school field trips.
Yeah, we did have 2 days of school field trips.
I got the 10 and a half weeks off the thing that he sent us.
Well, on theirs, it said May 15th to September after Labor Day is what that's where I got the number.
Oh, yeah. I just got it off when they were doing all the figures on there, it had 10 and a half weeks.
Yeah, well, I calculated based off of the May 15th to the dates that they had on there, which came out to 16.1487 something.
Okay. But anyway, well, that is one thing. The other thing is that when you're looking at this, when you're looking at cutting the aquatic staff and everything, that is really one of the only variable costs there is out there at the swimming pool. All the other costs are fixed costs. You've got to pay for your utilities, you've got to pay for all the chemicals, you've got to pay for all the maintenance, and then the investment, the $4.5 million investment you built in building the pool. So you have all that stuff as well. So when you're cutting back the usage of it, then the other percentages go, your cost per hour will go up. As you cut hours, your operating cost per hour will increase.
Well, that depends on the data that we get back from. If we say that we're going to close at 6:30 instead of 8:30, but we only see, to make up $57,000, that's roughly 2,000 people that we'd have to see to make up that cost. As we reduce that human cost, if we were only have, you've got to calculate how many people are actually coming between 6:30 and 8:30.
And it's worth noting that our budget is based on every day is sunny and 85, okay? We do not have 80 days of sunny, 85-degree weather. So at 6 p.m., if it's raining, we're definitely going to close. But at 6 p.m., if it's sunny, we need to stay open to recoup the cost of being open. So every day that we're open, we have an opportunity. We only have 80 days worth of opportunity. So we want to take advantage of those days. We spent roughly $4 million to renovate the indoor pool and the outdoor pool for 80 days of summer, okay? We have to make the most. So while it does cost the $57,000 that you've mentioned here, we can make that back in concession sales. If we close, we can't make anything. So
But we aren't making it back. Every year, that's what I'm getting at is, we're not making it back because every year we're underfunded and we have to take money from other parts.
That's correct. The numbers that are in this report are not in the budget. It would take way more money than they give me to run this pool every day for 80 days, sunny and 85, with 12 guards. Sometimes their grandmother's sick. Sometimes they go to Bonnaroo. Sometimes they're at a church camp. It's very seldom that we're at full staff. These numbers are the worst case scenario, where every person is at work every day of the 80 days we're open. That never happens.
Case scenarios, we're still not making that money back.
Okay.
That's what I'm trying to drive.
I still have the floor. I never did finish with my point. I think you misunderstood my point. I wasn't talking about the revenue that we'd make back. I'd say when you have a high fixed cost already and you just reduce the variable cost and reduce the hours, your per hour cost is going to increase. And I don't have my figures because I did not, but I did write down the results of that. And under the current system, and this will be a shocker to some people, but under the current schedule, the pool costs $450 an hour to operate. if we went to your revised schedule, because the fixed costs stay the same, the variable costs decreased, but you decrease a bunch of hours, the cost to operate is $465 an hour. So it is a higher cost per hour to operate.
But how did you, and that may be, right, the cost may end up being higher, but where are you, can you tell me how much revenue we're making between 6:30 and 8:30 on each of these days?
That was only based on cost. That wasn't based on any revenue at all.
I don't think you can factor in the revenue because the utility, hang on, no you don't, because the utility of Parks and Rec is not based on revenue. The utility is not necessarily monetary in all ways. It's the fact that we only have 80 days of use of a $4 million plus investment that the community has already paid the money in tax increases for. And for us to cut back those hours, I think, is duping them out of quality of life that they have already previously paid for.
Alderman Wilson, you've been patiently waiting. I recognize you.
Thank you. I was going to say, to kind of...
That would be on another, if you had that.
What Jenna said about
cost.
It's something that we've already invested in a quality of life issue. But, that's like saying, well, we could just close down any park and not maintain it just to save some money. But that's... people, when they come to town, or people that live here and they want to go to the pool, if it's closed all the time, then what good is it going to do? And when you do have your fixed costs that are going to go into the treatments for the pool and such things like that, that's going to remain regardless of cutting back the hours of the pool, which is what Kurt was saying about that your costs actually to operate the pool are going to increase if you cut back the hours of the pool. And then there's also the other thing is that we have lifeguards that we currently that work these hours, and I'm not so sure if we cut their hours back that we're going to have the staff that are with the shortened hours. So I don't think that it would be wise to something that we have such a large investment in that brings such a quality to the community that we would just look at cutting the hours back there. I mean, because in essence we could cut back maintenance on any park or
anything.
I mean, but those are services that we offer and that we've invested in. It's a great benefit for our kids and the community. I know that when I was growing up, that the pool was the biggest thing in my life, and all of my friends, and it's a lot of kids that work at the pool and adults that work at the pool that's their first job, and it's more benefit than just that people swim there. I mean, it's
man. Yeah, so two problems with this. First of all, I think that your way of analyzing this is completely off base. But number two, closing at 6:30. Most people don't get off work till 4:30 or 5 o'clock. You're basically under assumption that the only people that use the pool are people who are teachers or students or kids who are out for the summer. There are a lot of people who enjoy going in the evenings when the sweltering heat has died down a bit, and can take their kids, or grandparents can sit out there and brave those temperatures or be able to enjoy the amenities. But number two, I think where we're really off base right now in this whole conversation is that we have bypassed what we are to be doing up here right now. We are governance. We are not operations. Operations is that man right there, honestly. And this man ought to be taking quick notes from that man, because that's his everyday. That's his every day. That's his every day. Mr. Cole over there with the aquatics and the lifeguards and the training and knowing what's needed and knowing what the traffic is and now knowing what's going to bring more people in. If we need to bring more people in because we need to make more money, we need to tell that guy over there. We need to tell that guy right there. If there's an issue with the budgeting and you don't have enough money, actually, that's something you need to come to us because we need to make sure that you are funded better. That's where we come in. We don't need to be telling them how to do their jobs. And I feel like we've gotten into that even with this conversation.
Alderman Gleason, you're recognized.
I was going to say something very similar to what she said, not into that detail, but what I was going to say is I commend the work you did in looking, because we do need to look for ways to cut the budget and find ways to save money, and that's a lot of work you went to, and I commend what you did. So I'm not shooting it down at all, but I don't agree with it. But I think maybe the way we should look at it more, if we are in a notion of saving money, is we should set a dollar figure that we would like to save, or a percentage that we would like to save, communicate that with the city administrator and say, pass it down to your departments. You each need to cut 3% out of your budget or 4%, and let them decide where the best place to cut that money out of their budget is, where it would be least impact on the people. I think they would be the ones best suited to do that. And I remember when I was a department head, I think that I could find ways to save money that would hurt the least. And I think yes, we should save money when possible, but maybe the board ought to give the direction to, let's cut a percentage, let's cut a dollar figure, however we wanted to go about it. But when we go into a department and start, picking out things, we may be right, exactly right, but we may be wrong too.
Barry.
I think you're wrong on how we look at, you do have the fixed costs, right, but you also do have the variable costs. And yes, maybe the cost of running it may go up, but that still is dependent upon the income side. So you can't actually I can't make a good guess, and that was part of the email that I had sent, is I can't make a good guess. This is just expenses, but you don't know without the revenue on what that actually does to increase the cost of running the pool, or if it saves. I am all for, here's the thing, is we've all sat up here, last budget meeting, who made a motion on any amendments to the budget to find ways to cut any costs? Raise your hand. None of us did. But we all, in our budget questions, told them to find us, we want money for roads, we want money for infrastructure, we want money for these pieces, but nobody up here said any opinion. So this wasn't an amendment, but what this was an attempt to hopefully that maybe somebody else up here will participate in the budget discussions and come up with an idea. I'm happy, I think I threw it out last time, I'm happy to say, and I'll make the motion, if we want to say, hey, guys, the second meeting is kind of tough to do it, but if we want to say, hey, guys, when you come back to us next time, every department needs to find 2% savings cost. I mean, I'm happy to make that motion, but we can't sit up here and ask for the world. Here's our choices. We either need to raise taxes, or we're going to have to find some things in our budget that we're going to have to cut. And those decisions are going to have to be made. And I agree, it's not our job to get into operations, but it is this budget is the primary thing that we're elected for, is to control this budget. So it is our responsibility. Even if, and I'm not saying, you guys are doing a fantastic job, and what I was trying to do is find Parks and Recreation more money, because you guys need it. And if we can find cost savings in places to reallocate some of those, then let's do that. Nobody was saying take money away from you. Leave that money in there. Leave it in Parks and Rec and let you use it where you do need it. But I mean, I hate to just make it flat. I'll wait until the end, but we've got to figure out a way to cut costs.
Are we ready to vote on the original motion as amended?
We didn't amend. We didn't.
There was no amendment, it's original motion.
Oh, well, we did the amendments with the tourism and nonprofits.
Ready to vote?
So, wait a minute. What is it? Okay.
Wait a minute, motion to amend.
This isn't another motion, and this is on the
I didn't-
original.
We voted on the amendments. We're ready to vote on the original motion as
It
amended.
says a motion to amend. But,
Yeah, it's okay, she speaks in it.
I would second a percentage.
I would second a percentage any day. Put it back to the departments.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I'll make a motion that...
What's a dollar figure for a percentage point? In the total city budget, what is the dollar figure for a 1%?
Well, it depends on the department. Like if we...
I wouldn't do it by department, because the department budgets are so different. I think you should do it based on the whole budget as a whole.
If police is I don't remember the top, but if police is $2 million, then 2% on their budget is that...
Don't do it by
$5.
individual budgets. Do it by the thing as a whole.
Fairly allocated throughout, that way.
Yeah, I think just 2% flat, right?
Yeah, well, I was just wondering, out the total city budget, I was just wondering how many dollars would be...
What's 1% of the total city budget? Yeah.
370, it's 372,000.
Off a percentage point?
That's 1 percentage point of the budget.
Feel comfortable with 2%?
Yeah, I mean, I hate asking them to do this in 2 weeks, but...
So it'd be 2% of their individual budgets, whatever their budget total is.
Whatever everybody, or if Mr. Quick, it's up to, I think the motion should be have Mr. Quick cut 2% out of the total budget. I feel the fair way to do it would be 2% out of each budget, but I give him the latitude as the boss.
We could consult with Ms. Wilson what...
I mean, I got a list of the suggestions from the city, but they're going to be things that you guys probably don't like. I went down this path and I asked them to find me that money. It was in our budget session. I think 4 of us were here. Let me find that list. You don't happen to have that list handy, do you?
I do not.
If we're going to do it by department, I would ask each department to cut their budget by 2%. If we're going to do it for Mr. Quick, I'm going to ask him to cut it by the total by 3. That's what I would be in favor of. The total by 3 would be $1 million, roughly. Each individual department could cut their own budgets by, or try to find a way to cut their own budgets by 2%. Either way.
Let me see if I can find this email. And this was the suggestions that came back.
Can I just bring up one thing? If we are preserving pay and benefits, this is a service business. We did not put equipment in here other than grant equipment. So when you talk about cutting 1% off the operating area is $183,000. It's going to be and we didn't give people much more this year. So you're really looking at probably programs. There really isn't a lot, a debt service is locked. You're looking at just your operating, taking $183,000 out of, per 1% out of your operating budgets. We can mow less. Basically, that's what you're saying. We've got $84,000 in mowing. And I'm not picking on parks, I'm just, okay. So they're going to be agonizing, okay, do we now mow less on those parks? What is the standard that the citizens are going to expect on that? What are they going to think when you don't? So I don't, that's why I'm not really sure where you want to go. There are so few things that you can, I mentioned, Alderman Berry has what I gave him before.
Yeah, I'm trying to find it here.
And I said Rock Creek, you won't like this one, Kurt. I said the Rock Creek concert. You spend a lot in one night that we get nothing back from. But that's still not going to fix our paving. It's not going to fix our deferred maintenance.
This is the list that I came up with. And again, if it's a nice to have, must have should always come first, period. $6,000 to do the Arts Council, $9,000 in special events, not sponsor any events. $20,000 reduced parks and mowing times, $8,000 deferred soapbox derby, $40,000 reduced fireworks to the amount sponsored only, $30,995 remove our concerts and events, $6,500 remove forestry professional services, $2,500 reduce forestry operating supplies, $10,000 remove tree replacement, then $10,000 reduce the transfer to TAA, $15,000 delete TADC Tourism Cost Center, $15,000 delete TADC Downtown Cost Center, save $22,870 by capping the hotel motel tax at $150, and another $58,400 by capping other agencies at $50,000, which would bring to a total of $254,335.
Most of it from Parks and Rec, it sounded like.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, we can just continue operating. It's not going to be me sitting here next year when we're looking down the barrel of tax base, right? But it's going to happen if we don't start looking at it. Yes, these services and things that we do are awesome and they're great, right? But we also have to look what's more important. Our infrastructure is failing. The infrastructure is falling apart. Stormwater is an issue. We do have money allocated for that. But our roads, we're still on a 45-year. If we pave your road today, it'll be 40 years before we come and pave your road again. And that's what you're paying taxes for. The extra and I'm just saying the pool, the extra 2 hours at the swimming pool, what percentage of the population actually uses that? What percentage of the people that come and visit, and I'm not knocking it at all, but what percentage of the people that come and visit the pool are actually from Tullahoma versus coming from other places? And those are the things that, I'm just picking on that, so I'm not picking on it, but we've got to start looking at, or not, I mean, we don't have to. We just keep marching down the same road, but eventually it's going to bite somebody in the butt. It's going to bite the people sitting out here in the butt. It's going to be his problem next year and his problem next year. I just hate to continue to kick that can. But it was just an idea I was tossing, so I'll rescind my motion to cut 2%, and we'll just leave it how it is.
Call the question. Change your vote. Only as amended. Passes 6-1. The Board of Mayor and Aldermen meeting is adjourned. And we're going directly into the beer board. Any other comments for the beer board? Seeing none, we ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda. Motion from Glick, seconded by Barry. Questions on the consent agenda? Ready to vote? Passes 5-0. That's 6-0. There being no other unfinished business, we'll move into new business. A request to approve beer board application for a special event for the International Flying to Beechcraft Heritage Museum on the old Shelbyville Highway. That's going to be on October the 16th to the October the 19th. Ms. Jody Curtis, again, will oversee the sale of the beer. Motion from Barry, seconded by Mann. Any questions on permit for the beach party? Not ready to vote. Motion passes 6-0. There being no other unfinished business and no other new business, the motion to adjourn, accept, we are adjourned.